This is a video designed to help in the preparation for the debut string orchestra excerpt. This excerpt is from the Carnival of the Animals, the movement titled Fossils. So I just want to talk a few minutes about some practice tips that will hopefully help you in your preparation. The first thing with preparing for any audition is you need to ask yourself, what is the person on the other side, the judge, going to be listening for when they hear your audition? In general, I would say you can divide this into three main categories. The first is the rhythm and the tempo. The second is the intonation. And the third is the tone and musicality. So I just want to spend a few minutes on each point and kind of go through the excerpt and talking about a few things to consider in each category. The first is the tempo and the rhythm. So this excerpt is actually in cut time, which means we feel the pulse in half notes. So if you were going to do a practice tempo and practice when you set the metronome to quarter notes, that's fine. But just know that if you are practicing with the beat on quarter notes, the actual goal tempo would be quarter note equals 200. So the goal tempo in half notes that's marked in the part is the half note equals 100. As far as the rhythm, I wouldn't say it's too tricky. I would just, start very slow and then every day just bump up the metronome a few clicks. The second category is intonation. So this is where I think this excerpt does have a few tricky spots, mainly in the shifting. So in this excerpt, we need to be comfortable in first position, also in third position and second position. So the first shift we have is in measure 5, the first bar of the second line. And we have going from F natural in first position to first finger A, third position. So I would just isolate that spot and check it with your open A each time. One thing to consider when you shift, make sure you move the entire hand as one unit. Make sure that we don't see any of this will be hard to play in tune if you accidentally leave the thumb behind. So see if you can shift as one unit, and when you isolate that spot, check with the open A. The next tricky spot with the intonation is the very next bar when we have the B flat. So make sure that second finger B flat is a half step away from the first finger A. So the scale, you can practice the scale just kind of out of rhythm, out of tempo. That whole bar. And just watch out for the second finger. It has a low 2 marked. That's going to be touching the first finger, just a half step away. Then the next bar, we have, again, you can isolate the shift. We go from third position, second finger E, down to first position C natural. So I would just isolate that spot. You can go back and forth. And then the other thing in that same bar is watch out for that B flat as well, low 1. So, and we have the E natural. You have to move your first finger back up. Okay, and the next section, I would practice kind of the same thing, isolating the shifts. So the very next bar, which is the bar of the fortissimo, you can just play F and then reset. Check with open A. One thing that's not marked in this part that I found when I was learning the excerpt myself that may be helpful is to do a lift in each of the rests. I think unless your private teacher tells you otherwise, I would do a lift. So down bow, another down bow, another down bow, and then as it's marked. And the same thing when it comes back again. The last 1, 2, 3, 4, the last 5 measures of the excerpt, the same thing. Down bow again, down bow, down bow. So I think that will help. in the clarity of the bow. Okay, so yeah, so we have the shifting. Then the shift back when it has the square 65. You can practice going from C natural, finding this F. And then the next measure that's a little tricky, the very next bar, 66. You can try this interval just in first position, A to C natural, and then see if you can match it with the shift to second position. So hopefully those are all the tricky spots for the intonation. Hopefully that helps to hear those intervals. The next main category is the musicality and tone. So sometimes people hear the word musicality and they think, well, that's kind of a vague word, you know, what exactly does that mean? You can actually break it into a few smaller words that are a little bit easier to grasp. So I would say in musicality, we have dynamics, phrasing. In this case, the whole excerpt is pretty loud. It goes from mezzo forte to then fortissimo. So the challenge is playing a really beautiful loud sound without it sounding scratchy. Another category that another smaller category within musicality, I would say, is the articulation. So in this excerpt, we have some notes are staccato, these staccato quarter notes. Make sure each one has a really good clarity on grabbing the string, but it also releases from the string. So from the beginning, just hearing that clarity in the staccato quarter notes, and then contrasting that with the slurs. When we have the slurs, see if that can be very connected. So see if we can, when you practice this excerpt, if you can listen for the contrast. That will be one thing that the judges are looking for. The other thing with articulation is we have that one accent in the second line. So for that accent, you want to grab the string with the right hand, with the bow, but you also want to make sure that that note, what we call a left hand accent with vibrato, so that it really rings at the top of the line. And then I would just say the last part of musicality is the style and character. So this whole piece, if you haven't listened to it, I would really encourage you to listen to the entire Carnival of the Animals. It has many movements. Each movement represents a different animal, and there's even a kind of a joke movement called pianists. Well, comparing pianists to another animal. But each movement, I would say, is lighthearted, and the whole piece kind of has this lighthearted, playful character. Specifically to this movement, if you listen to the original, the solo is played in the xylophone. So the movement is titled Fossils, and you can imagine, like, instead of the xylophone, you can imagine someone playing this little melody on some bones, you know, so it kind of has that joke quality to it. The other joke of this movement is that some older pieces from Mozart and Rossini are actually quoted. So it's kind of making a joke, when this piece was written, those pieces were the fossils of the time. So when you study this piece, when you play it, make sure it never sounds too bogged down, too serious, that it always kind of moves ahead, that you feel this kind of lighthearted quality, even in the fortissimo. Yeah, so the last point I would say, as far as preparing for audition, and especially a recorded audition, as is going to be the case this season, is I would record yourself almost every day that you practice, not just the day of, you know, when you're making the final recording. And then see if you can put yourself in the position of the person on the other side of the camera, and really listen critically with your part, and see if you can kind of check off all those points that I listed: the tempo, the rhythm, intonation, tone, phrasing, dynamics, articulation, and the style and character. And if you can really hear that, if you can make a little check on all of those, then you're definitely in the right direction as far as being very prepared for the audition. So I hope this video helped in everyone's preparation, and look forward to hearing you. Good luck to everyone.